class, I am just going to go ahead and get started because I only really have 40 minutes for my Zoom in order to present this information to you. So if you're able to join, then that's great. If you're not, I am actually recording this so that it will be available for you afterwards. So if you need to come in and go out, you're more than welcome to do so. And at any time, if you have any questions about anything, you can just unmute yourself or show yourself, and then I'll definitely will stop and answer any questions. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen because I want to share a few things with you as far as a few key things that's located in our Blackboard site here. So let me just share that. So hopefully you're able to see our Blackboard class. I know I have a few other windows open here, but let me just close those out. But the first thing I want to just make sure that you are able to just make sure you're familiar with the Blackboard site. Now this is for one of my classes. So, so it might not be exactly your class that I'm showing you right now. But if you're unfamiliar with Blackboard, or it's been a while since you've been in class or taking a class online, Blackboard is where you will get all of your information about the course. Also, I definitely highly encourage you to just pop in at least a few times a week just to check the announcements, because I make announcements pretty frequently, whether I'm giving you examples or samples or just updating you about the class. So please make sure that you check the announcements. Now my Blackboard might look a little bit different than yours, but I just also want to highlight that there's also the contact the instructor under the communication and tools. If you have any questions throughout the term, please make sure you use the contact the instructor. You also notice that the course content, it is broken up into each week. So you'll see there's actually 3 modules, and then under each module, there's either 3 weeks or the 4 through 9 weeks, and then week 10. So I just wanted to go over that just to make sure that you're aware of the Blackboard site that we're using. I did prepare a brief PowerPoint because I feel like that's the easiest way for me to actually go over some of this information that I need to share with you. So I'm just going to go through that right now. Hello, how are you doing, Sergio? I was just telling the other student participating, or our students participating or watching the recording, that I have about 40 minutes to go through the information. So I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as I can. But if at any time, if you need to stop me to ask a question or get more clarification, please do so. But I will post this recording in our course room. So I did prepare a PowerPoint. So once again, this is Intro to School Counseling. So I did enjoy getting to meet everyone last week, and hopefully you all were able to get to know your classmates and your peers. You'll see that we're all coming from a wide variety of backgrounds. Some of us are coming from education backgrounds, and some of you all, you're coming from backgrounds that are not education based at all, or mental health based. So this is just a brief course breakdown. So you'll see, let's see, I might have it a little bit different here because we had it different before. I thought I had changed this one, but I'll change it when I upload it. But you'll see that we have discussion boards in weeks 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. So this might be a little bit different than some of your other classes, in that by the time we get to week 7, there's no more discussion boards for our class. So it's kind of a little different to end the course without a discussion board, but that's how we have it set up. Your assignments will take place in week 2, which is this week, which you'll write a history of school counseling. You have another assignment in week 9. This is where we changed it up a little bit here. So this is what I need to correct. But in week 9, you'll have your skill setter assignment due. Week 8, that's where you have your Padlet due. And then week 10 is your school counselor interview. So if you're reading this, this PowerPoint slide right here, you'll see that they're actually mixed up. So week 8 is actually the Padlet and week 9 is actually the skill setter. And then we have the interview for the school counselor that's coming up. So I'm just going to go through the weeks here so there won't be any confusion with that particular slide. I do apologize for that. But week 1, we've already completed that week. That's what we just talk about key historical moments. It's just really an introduction, and there's just a discussion board, which you all successfully completed. Week 2, that's the week that we're in now. This is where we're actually diving into school counseling. You're going to learn a little bit more about the role of school counselors. I think in my video, I might have said that there's a discussion board this week, but there's not a discussion board. I was thinking about next week. So there's no discussion board. There's only an assignment that's due this week. I did send you out a template or a sample for the paper that's due on Sunday. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at that sample, and that will hopefully you can base your paper on that. So this is all about the history of school counseling and why we're no longer called guidance counselors. There's also a really great document that ASCA created that I'm going to share with you today after I finish this, that really breaks down the difference between a guidance counselor and a school counselor. The key thing I want to just remind you when you're writing your paper is just to think about how education has changed over the past 30, 40 years. And when you think about the use of technology, the use of data, the use of cultural competencies, how has that impacted school counseling and the school counseling profession as well? Because as guidance counselors, mental health really came from a career background. So that's where all of it started. And then that's where school counselors were really first put into the schools to help students with their careers. But then over time, our role has changed, our education and training has changed. So those are all things I really want to make sure that you are picking up on, and that what you're using our course resource to really show that depth and breadth of the changes that have occurred over the past 60 years, 60, 50, 70 years in school counseling. Week 3, there's only a discussion board, and this is where you're just going to talk a little bit more about code of ethics and key professional dispositions. So you're going to examine the ASCA code of ethics. We just recently updated our code of ethics as well. So there should be a new code of ethics that you're reviewing. And then also you're going to look at the School of Counseling professional dispositions. So it's really more so about just helping you just to understand professionalism, why we need to always maintain a high level of professionalism, and also ethical standards as students and also as professionals. In week 4, this is where we're going to start to jump into the American School Counselor Association National Model. If you haven't already been to the ASCA website, I definitely encourage you to go to schoolcounselor.org and also even maybe join as a student. You definitely don't need to do so now, but it's encouraged that you join your professional organization. For this week, there's going to be a choice of discussion boards. So either you can choose a discussion board for, I think it's K through 6 or 6 through 12 or 8 through 12. And you only pick one. Now, some of you might not know which level you're interested in, whether you want to work with some of the smaller children in elementary to middle school, or you want to work with the middle schoolers to high schoolers, and that's completely fine. You just pick one. And then you just base your discussion post on that particular age group. So you'll just write about things that might be developmentally appropriate when working with children that are in K through 6, and things that are developmentally appropriate if you're working with students in grades 6 through 8. I think that's the breakdown of it. So with this, you're also just going to create your Padlet link. So you do not need to do anything to your Padlet. A Padlet might seem very foreign to some of you all right now, but you're just simply going to go to the Padlet.com website and creating a link. And I'll just go to that right now so that you can see that. And this is what you will go to. You'll just go here. You'll sign up for free. You do not need to pay for anything when it comes to Padlet. Everything is definitely free. And then you'll see I actually created a few Padlets in the past, but you'll create your Padlet. And then this is what it can look like as you start to build it. But you'll see that my link is up here, Padlet.com, and then that's my username, and then that's just my specific link to my Padlet. So you'll just copy that particular link and put it in our discussion board. Okay. Let's see if I can get back to my PowerPoint here. I don't know where it took me away from it. Let's see. Sorry, you guys. It just took me out of my my PowerPoint here. I'm just trying to get back to it. But while we're here on the Padlet, I just want to show you a sample Padlet that a student created that I will also share with you. So this is a Padlet from a student from last term. And the Padlet is really a digital portfolio. I don't know if some of you all actually had to create a paper, like an actual notebook portfolio, but I remember doing that. But now everything's completely digital. So there's no longer putting things in a paper and putting it into sheet protectors or anything like that. So this is really what a Padlet is. It's just an electronic notebook. And with your Padlet, you're going to just really use those different core competencies for the Ask a National model. So you'll have a section on assess, you'll have a section on define, and you'll have a section on manage, and you'll have a section on deliver. All throughout the term, you'll actually build and create your Padlet throughout our discussion boards. So in week 1, there's nothing really associated with the Padlet unless you go back and you use something out of your vision statement, because you will have to do define, core beliefs, and vision statement. So you can use that from your week 2 paper. Week 3, there's really nothing when it comes to the ethics and key dispositions. Is when we get to week 4, 6, and 7 that you're actually creating things that you can copy and paste and put it into your Padlet. Let's see if I can get back to my see. I don't know what happened to my PowerPoint here. I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry, you guys. This would be something that I could find fairly easy. Let's see here. If I can't get back to it, then I will just have to just kind of talk about things off the top of my head as I can remember, because I don't know what happened to it. So that's one of the main things that you will definitely need to make sure that you are creating your Padlet. Another thing that I just want to make sure that you are aware of is just the, here's another example of a Padlet that I will share with you. This is from another class. So this is where a student actually, she listed everything with deliver, assess, define, and manage. So we're on week 3, we talk about the ethics. Week 4, that's when we move more into let me go back here to week 4. That's when we were talking about the Ask a National model. And this is where you will identify the school counselor that you will interview. Now, this is something that's very important. I just need the name of the person that you'll interview. And we need to make sure that whenever you do this school counselor interview, that's due week 10, that they are a licensed school counselor or practicing school counselor. So, or they went to school to become a school counselor. So you should not interview, someone who's a psychologist or someone who's a social worker. It should be a school counselor. So, so this is week 4. So with week 4, you're just going to identify the grade level that you want to work in. So similar to week 3. And then you're going, no, this is the same as week 4. I'm sorry, I don't have my PowerPoint in front of me to help me with this. But week 4, this is where you identify the school counselor that you're going to interview. And then you're also just going to share your Padlet link. I highly encourage you to reach out to school counselors that you know or school counselors in your network or now, because by the time we get to week 10 in our class, I see, when are we ending here? So we actually end right at the beginning of November. So if you've worked in the schools or if you've had children in the schools, you know that by that time, the schools are really, really in a groove. They're really trying to make it to the end of that holiday period right before they get to the Thanksgiving holiday break. So we really want to make sure that we are giving school counselors plenty of time in order to complete the interview. And I'll talk a little bit about that in week 10. So let me just go back. So in week 4, that's where you create your Padlet link that I just showed you, and you also identify a school counselor. Now, if you haven't been able to identify a school counselor by week 4, that's fine, but I will check back in with you by week 5 or week 6 to make sure that you have in fact that you have identified a school counselor. If you're having difficulties finding a school counselor, I might can reach out to some of my school counselor friends that I have across the country, but I definitely want to make sure that I am reaching out to them in plenty of time and not last minute. I had some students last quarter, they came to me on week 10 and said, hey, I can't get in touch with my school counselor, or, I wasn't able to locate a school counselor. Can you find one for me? And I really try my best, but, obviously last term, it was the summer term. So school counselors were not in school or they were just returning to school. And I just really couldn't do that to my friends and also the school counselors that I knew to say, hey, can you interview this student at the last minute? So I just want to put that out there that if you need my assistance, please let me know as soon as possible, and I can match you with a counselor and we can get that done. So when we go to week 5, this is actually a bye week. So this is a week where there's nothing due, where you can take some time and just really gather your thoughts and just really gather everything that what you need. This is the week where I tell students to work smarter during this time. No, there's no discussion boards due. There's no assignments due. But during this time, this is where you can go and you can identify the article that what you would include in your Padlet, because in your Padlet, you will also need to include a peer-reviewed journal article about the role of school counselors. So I will give you a link to some great journals that you can find an article based on school counseling, but you will need to read that article and write a summary of that article. So that's what you need to make sure that you do for week 5. Another thing that what you can do for week 5 is you can complete your implicit bias test. So you will need to take 2 of those tests. I'm actually showing you this link. So you'll go to the implicit.harvard.edu, and then you'll just take 2 tests. I've actually taken a couple of these tests myself. So you'll click on race, transgender, age, sexuality, religion, and then you'll take the test, and then you will just write a simple write-up or summary of your results. So that's something else that you'll need to include in your portfolio. And then also during week 5, when there's nothing due, particularly during that week, you can complete your school counselor interview. So that might be a good time for you to sit down and interview your school counselor. And I don't know if that's going to coincide with fall break for many of our schools, but just keep that in mind that that still might be a busy time for some school counselors. But during week 5, no, there's nothing due, but you will need to make sure that you are working on your Padlet and that you are identifying a school counselor to interview, possibly scheduling that interview, and also maybe completing your Harvard implicit bias test or finding a school counselor journal article to review. When it comes to week 6, once again, we're in a defined section of the ASCA National Model. This is where you're going to review your core beliefs and ethics. And with week 6, this is where you are going to really just review your core beliefs. Like, what are your core beliefs when it comes to school counseling? And also, this is where you're also going to refine a little bit of that personal vision and mission statement that you're going to include in your portfolio or Padlet, digital portfolio or Padlet. So for this one, this is where you can actually take your discussion board post, save it in a Word document, and put it in your Padlet, and you're done with this particular section in your Padlet. So for this discussion post, you just need to make sure that you develop a vision statement, which is 1 or 2 sentences about your personal philosophy of school counseling, and then also just a statement about the role of school counselors and how we advocate for all students. When it comes to week 7, that's where we have our managed section in school counseling. And this is where you are going to complete the competency assessment that's in your school counseling national model book. So that's located on page 95 in the school, that's a school counselor competency assessment that's located on 95 in your textbook. So this is a very informal assessment. Many of you all will not rate yourself very high on some of these skills when it comes to school counseling because you're new to school counseling. Maybe this is the first time you're seeing some of these competencies that school counselors need to have mastered or that they're working to master. So don't get too wrapped up into a score. It's really more so of an exercise so that you can get a better understanding of what school counselors do and actually the competencies that many of the school counselors that achieve the national model distinction that their schools and their programs need to actually maintain. When we get to week 8, once again, this is where you submit your digital portfolio. So you'll see here that these are the different sections that you'll need to include. We have the assess, the define, the manage, the deliver. Assess, that's the peer review article. It cannot be older than 5 years old. It indicates how a school counseling program has had a positive impact on students. So this could be a group that school counselors did. It could be any type of data that shows the effectiveness of a school counseling program. It can just be a wide variety of articles based on school counseling programs and how they impact students. For define, this is where you're going to identify your core beliefs. So once again, we go back to either week 4 or 7, and then you find those core beliefs here, 4 or 6, and then you write a reflection that identifies the areas to improve and areas, the core beliefs, and include your vision statement and your vision statement of school counseling. The manage section is actually the school counselor competency that you would have done in week 7. The deliver section, that's the section where you're going to have the most information. That's where you're going to include your 2 Harvard implicit bias test results and the summaries there. You're also going to include a school counseling guidance lesson plan. And this is where you find a group lesson plan online. And here's the sample template that I'm going to share with you. And this is actually a sample that one of our faculty members did. So she found a lesson plan online about the GPS for success for 5th grade. You do not need to go and create a new lesson plan. It could be one that's already completed. You can find lesson plans on Pinterest, Teachers Pay Teachers, or just doing a Google search. If you need help trying to find a lesson plan, you can reach out to me. I have several that I know of and that I can show you. So, but please do not pay for anything when it comes to lesson plans. And then you'll see here that what she didn't fill out everything here, but she did fill out some of the key information where she put the title of the lesson plan. She put the evidence base, is research informed, and it is evidence based. And then she just also included the learning objectives, any materials, and then you can go in and fill in the other information there. If you go back to one of the sample that I'm going to share with you with the Padlets, you'll see that this particular student included her lesson plan template here. You'll see the way she did her plan and see that she targeted her mindsets and behaviors, her lesson, her objectives, her materials. And then you just really just include what you would do based on the instructions that's already provided in the lesson plan. And then you would just need to make sure that you include a link to the lesson plan at the end. Another thing that you'll need to make sure that you include is you'll need to include a infographic. And an infographic is really a virtual poster. We see infographics all the time, but then this is just something that is based on an advocacy issue in school counseling. So it could be bullying, it could be school anxiety, it could be test anxiety, it could be students that are suffering from eating disorders, it could be drug awareness. So it could be a variety of topics, but it has to be an advocacy topic based in school counseling. And then what you will need to do is you'll need to just create an infographic similar to what this student did. She did actually a really good job with hers, where you include graphics, you include some statistics about, like she said, why being involved in schools matter with disadvantaged youth. And just include some key information and include your links. And it's just a graphic poster. When we get to our actually skill setter video that's due in week 9, that is where you will actually describe the infographic that you completed. So you'll have a sample student or a sample parent, and he'll say, well, tell me a little bit more about this infographic, or you wanted to talk to me about a particular topic. And then you might say, hi, his name is Wally. Hi, Wally. I just wanted to share some information with you about bullying. And then you'll just basically share what you listed on your infographic. With your skill setter too, I know I only have 10 minutes coming up here. You will also do a sample, you also record a video describing the role of school counselors, and then I'll provide you with a rubric so that you'll know exactly what I am looking for and what I would grade you on in that particular video. And I also do another midterm virtual office hours and go over all of this information again. So if you missed it this time, I'll host another virtual office hours for you. But please, please, please make sure that you go ahead and you purchase your skill setter application today, this week, next week. Do not wait until week 9 and you're searching for you're searching for your infographic code, you're not infographic code, your skill set or code, because I've had students every term wait until the last minute and they can't find their code. And I say, did you buy it? And then they realized that they did not buy it and they did not give themselves enough time in order to learn how to do the skill set or video and how to set things up. And then finally, for week 10, this is where you actually interview your school counselor that you selected. You will see that this interview, it has 3 components. So it's definitely not something that I recommend that you start working on Saturday and you turn it in on Sunday. That's why I encourage you to start working on this interview and start identifying your school counselor in week 5. So the sooner and the earlier that you can work on this interview, the better. Do not submit a question and answer paper. You will need to actually write the paper up in prose format. And I can send you an example of that if you are unfamiliar with that, but do not say, describe your relationship with your principal. And you say, Ms. Smith describes her relationship with her principal as a great relationship. No, you will need to write the interview up. You will need to write it up in a prose format and APA format, which basically just includes a cover page and a reference page if you make any references. But you'll see that there are 3 components to the interview. There's where you're actually just learning more about the school counselor, his or her credentials, if they implement the national model, the relationship with their principal, the differences between a school counselor, school psychologist, and a social worker. And then the component 2 is just really where they're just talking to you a little bit more about the day in life of a school counselor. And then the component 3 is all about you and your reflection. What did you learn? Did you learn anything new? Did this interview change your thoughts and ideas about a school counselor and going into the profession of school counseling? And then this will actually be due during week 10. I have about 6 minutes left. I know I went through everything fairly quickly, but I just want to pull up the lesson plan template that I provided for you for the paper that's coming up due this week. So this is really just helping you to understand how to put the paper in the APA format. And then also just some key things to include when it comes to guidance counselor, school counselor, your personal vision statement, conclusion, and references. Do we have any questions about anything? Once again, I will go through and I'll summarize everything that I went through and I'll include the PowerPoint. So hopefully it's a little bit more streamlined and you can follow things a little bit better. But if at any time there are questions about any of the assignments or anything, you can always reach out to me. I will host a midterm virtual office hours again, so probably around week 6. So after you've probably had a little bit more time to really kind of dive into the assignments and some of the some more of the information or language about school counseling. And then also as you start to put together your Padlet, I will offer another office hour so you can ask me any additional questions. Okay, well, if there are no additional questions from the students who've joined me tonight, I just wanted to just go ahead and wrap up so that I can send out an announcement and just sum up what we discussed tonight. And then also provide more information about, provide more guidance as far as the paper that you will submit on Sunday. But I do appreciate you taking the time to join me tonight, and I hope that you all have a great night. Okay, thank you both. You all have a great night.